Okay. Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Um, my name's Trenton Buhr. I'm a policy associate here at the Center for Rural Affairs. Today's topic is the local agricultural market program. Um, there's 4 sub-programs within that I'll kind of go over. But before that, I got a few things as well. If you do have any questions or comments throughout the program, you're welcome to leave those in the comments section. Those will also be available for folks to see after the fact, so keep that in mind as well. This video will also be recorded if you want to watch it later. So as I said, we're going to be talking about the local agriculture market program, or LAMP, as I'll be referring to it. Before we dig in entirely, I guess, to describe maybe who this kind of pertains to today, LAMP has 4 different programs in it, and for the most part, almost anyone really involved in the food processing or distributing process can really use these programs, down from the farmer, rancher, or gardener who's actually producing that raw product, or food processors or people who are packaging, for example, as well as any distributors or, say, farmers market operators, things like that. Those are the kind of folks who apply, and I'll kind of go over on each one who specifically will kind of be relevant in that situation as well. Another thing to note is that this overview is going to be pretty brief. If you find yourself kind of interested in these programs at all, thinking about applying, I'd really encourage you to just go directly to USDA and speak with them. And also, if you're planning a major expansion or starting a business or something like that, it's definitely worth talking to any local or regional economic development partners. They can be a big help in finding different funding sources, whether that be applicable grants or different loans. There's a number of resources, whether they be local, state, or federal programs. It's just definitely a good proactive step to do with any sort of business venture. And I guess the reason we're talking about these programs today is because a COVID-19 relief package, the one in December, greatly increased the amount of funding that LAMP programs are going to receive in 2021. In fact, more or less a doubling of that funding. And so, now perhaps more than ever, if you're someone who is a producer or involved in the food, local food process, this could be a really good time for you to take advantage of these programs and kind of, get your organization back on its feet or keep growing, whatever pertains to you during this time. First thing I'll go over is kind of what the purpose is of LAMP, and I'll first read their verbatim purposes that they give for the program, and then just kind of talk a little more loosely. So they have 5 points for LAMP, and the first is to connect and cultivate regional food economies through public-private partnerships, to support the development of business plans, feasibility studies, and strategies for value-added agricultural production and local and regional food system infrastructure, strengthen capacity in regional food system development through community collaboration and expansion of mid-tier value chains, to improve income and economic opportunities for producers and food businesses through job creation, and to simplify the application and the reporting processes for the grants administered under the program. So that's just laid out kind of plain there, but I think more importantly, when we think about local agricultural markets, we're talking about getting that food that is grown locally or regionally, maybe even across states or multiple states. And how do we get that, from a raw product to producing it and distributing it to people around us? Not only does this benefit that producer in giving them a new market, a new income base, it also benefits the local community in getting fresh food and just generating their larger economy. It strengthens our food system and allows it to absorb different shocks, that might come. If a large food, system is corrupted in some way, you can still access that food locally. So there's a lot of different benefits to that. And it's important to think about, because if you're applying for this grant, it's just like any other time. You need to craft your application to match these goals of USDA and make sure that you're fulfilling this larger mission that LAMP has. It's going to be really important if you're going to receive those funds that you do that. So let's go over, I guess, just quickly what each program is about. As I mentioned briefly, there are 4 within there. And my information is going to be pretty brief, and I'm not, the super big expert on any of them. So again, go to USDA if you're really interested. My colleague Teresa will post some links as well that'll get you to the proper websites and places to get more information too. So whatever you do, quick Google search, anything like that. The first one is the Farmers Market Promotion Program. Although it may seem like it's just for farmers markets, it's more broad than that. Some eligible entities include agricultural businesses, cooperatives, producer networks, CSA networks, local governments, nonprofits, tribal governments, and a few different others. So it's a pretty big range of folks who can be involved here. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a farmer's market per se, but something about getting that locally grown and produced product directly to those consumers. That's really the gist of this one here. Within the program, they have two different kinds of grants. There's capacity building grants, and then there's community development training and technical assistance. The capacity building are the smaller of the two, and they range from 50 to 250,000. Generally speaking, there's a 25% match required, but it's smaller this year. And again, the purpose of these ones is pretty broad. So some examples of eligible activities they give include market analysis, direct producer to consumer opportunities, farmers market manager training, starting an online sales platform. I think just the general idea is how can you increase the capacity of any sort of existing farmers market or other local product market type thing. There's a bunch of different examples. And the second type of grant within FMPP is community development training and technical assistance. These range from 100,000 to 500,000, so bigger. And again, usually a 25% match, but it'll be lower in 2021. And these grants are a little more focused on actually training that may be sold at a farmer's market or in a cooperative or CSA. That some examples they give include conducting training for farmers and ranchers regarding their producer to consumer markets, assisting producers with advertising their products, or providing support to producers to ensure they're following any relevant regulations. So this is kind of that boots on the ground, making sure that anyone involved in our food co-op or farmers market, whatever, is doing a good job and is able to actually, take advantage of that direct producer to consumer market that they have available. The second program would be the Local Food Promotion Program, LFPP. And actually the same people are eligible as the last one. So agricultural businesses, cooperatives, nonprofits, economic development, corporations, tribal governments, etc. This one's a little bit more broad in its focus. And again, has two different kind of grants, planning and then implementation. Planning grants, there's definitely smaller of the two, range from 25 to 100,000. And again, typically a 25% match, but that'll be lower this year. And not a whole lot to say about these, this is kind of similar to the capacity building before, talking about a 25%, or excuse me, they can be used for a whole host of planning things. So really anything before you're actually, getting the work done in whatever your local food organization might be. Things like a feasibility study or hiring technical assistants to think about, what a transportation system might look like would be a good idea. Maybe you're hiring someone to, lay out a plan for a building renovation that'll help you be more efficient. Things like that. There's also implementation grants. These are much bigger. Again, 100,000 to 500,000. Again, 25% match, but that'll be smaller this year. And these are used for more of the direct costs associated with carrying out local food production. Things like creating new market channels, finding more cost-effective forms of transporting those goods, or developing a food incubator program. But I think important for this one would be some ineligible activities. Those include production-related expenses, including food production, on-farm equipment. And they have to benefit more than one producer. And there's a number of others as well. So really pay attention to the kind of limitations on that one if you're thinking about applying. So the last one, one more I'll talk about, and then I'll go into detail about what I referenced, is the Regional Food System Partnership. I won't talk much about this one just because it's pretty robust. There's only about 25 recipients of this grant a year. There'll probably be more this year thanks to more funding, but it's also much bigger. They have planning grants from 100,000 to 250,000 and design grants. So much bigger, and these are very robust. I'm talking multi-state, often associated with maybe universities and things like that. So maybe you find yourself in that situation, someone who can apply for one of those, and if you are, very good. Go talk to USDA. But for the most part, these are very large and robust institutions who are eligible for regional food system partnerships. So the three I've talked about right now, Regional Food Systems Partnership being the last one that is held within the Agriculture Marketing Service of USDA. So those three haven't had the specifics laid out of their applications this year yet. We'll probably get those in the next few weeks. So that, I don't even know all the specifics about what that application is going to look like this year. It won't be that different, but as terms of what that matching grant is going to look like, whether it could be cash or in kind, just not entirely sure yet on those specifics, but we should know soon. And then finally, the fourth program, which I alluded to, is the Value Added Producer Grant. And this one is actually held under rural development. And so it's kind of got its own separate system that we get information through and things like that. And the application is open right now. And so we do have a little bit more information on this one. And this one as well is, for individuals, which kind of sets it apart from the last three, which are more about, systems and more local institutions and communities. This one is really for kind of individual producers or maybe a few producers. So eligible people, entities include agricultural producer groups, farm and rancher cooperatives, and other producer-based partnerships. So it's fairly limited there. We're talking about the folks who are actually producing that raw product, whether that be meat, whether that be vegetables or another crop, honey, you name it, things like that. They have two different types of grants as well, planning grants and working capital grants. Planning grants go up to $75,000. Like that before you actually start doing that work. And then the working capital grant goes up to $250,000, which can be used for processing costs, marketing expenses, some inventory expenses, and even some salary expenses too. So I'd say the uses of that working capital grant are probably the most broad of any of the grants that we've talked about today. Usually, in most years, a 50% match is required for all of those, half of which can come from sweat equity or other in-kind contributions. But it's a little different this year. So they have $75-ish million available for grants, up from the 35 that we thought it would be or normally is. So what they're going to do is for the first 35 million, there will be a 10% cash match required. Since it's a point system, the people with the highest points up to that 35 million will get that 10%. And then those who did not get that will be asked to supplement their application or otherwise reapply and bid for that next 40 or so $1 million at the regular 50% cash match. So if you get in that 10%, that's a huge deal. I mean, you are shaving a lot off of that cost of this pretty large grant that you could get. But even if not, there's much more money available, which really increases your odds of getting a grant this year. So that's a really good one to look into. And as I said, that application is open right now. The deadline for online applications is the 29th of April. And May 4th is the deadline for paper applications. So, you've got a little over a month here if you want to apply for that one. I think that's doable, especially if you're in the midst of maybe planning a renovation or expansion, something like that. Really would be worth your time to talk to USDA and see about it. I'm going to be watching right now. There's actually a question and answer session through USDA this afternoon. So if you send me a quick email, I might be able to get you onto that one. But yeah, that's coming around pretty fast. So anyways, yeah, those are the four main programs. So I'll just go over them again. The Farmers Market Promotion Program, the Local Food Promotion Program, Regional Food Systems Partnership, and the Value Added Producer Grant. All going to be getting a huge increase in funding this year. The cost cash match is going to be lower. If there's ever a time to apply, I'd say this really is a great opportunity. If you've thought about doing a custom market or something like that, really look into this. It could be a good deal. The VPG applications are open right now. The other ones should come out shortly, and we might do a press release for that or something on our website. There's also things from USDA that come out, so keep your eye out, and you'll see that coming up soon. But yeah, so if you're in any way involved in processing or producing or distributing that local food, excellent programs here. Maybe not this year, but in the future, I'd encourage you to just keep it in the back of your mind. Maybe spread it to folks who'd be interested. Let's take advantage of these programs and make sure that they're doing what they need to do. So we're here at Center for Rural Affairs to answer any questions you might have. I know a number of staff have worked on these programs or helped others apply for them. So I'm sure we could help do something. If not, we'll lead you in the right direction for sure. So appreciate you listening today, and yeah, happy to help out in any way we can. Thanks, everyone.